Hello, St. Paul Youth Group. I'm Joe Von Grosick,
And I'm Eric Arnegard.
and we're going to talk to you today about keeping your faith in college and what that experience has been like for us. All right, guys, like we said, we're going to talk to you about college and faith. So, Mrs. Herka sent us some questions for us to answer for you guys. So, the first question is introduce yourselves, tell us where you went to school, what are your interests, and what your faith was like before you came to college. I'll have Eric start because you guys don't know him at all.
So, like you said, my name's Eric. I'm from Waterford, which is a suburb northwest of Detroit. I went to Mott High School. I'm studying econ here at Alma. I also wrestle here at Alma with Joe. I was raised Catholic. Um, I went to a church called Christ the Redeemer in Lake Orion, and I always went to Mass every week with my family. It was just a part of what we did as a family.
All right, thank you, Eric. And as you guys know, I'm Joe from Owasso, like most of you probably are. I went to St. Paul from kindergarten to eighth grade, and then I went to Owasso for high school. And like Eric said, I'm on the wrestling team, so that's pretty cool. That we're teammates. I'm studying history here at Alma, and same for Eric. I was raised Catholic, so going to Mass was just part of what we did every weekend. Can't say that I always wanted to go, but that's just what we did, and so we did it. And going to St. Paul, I was taught theology, kindergarten to eighth grade, because it was part of our class curriculum. But then after that, I think my knowledge of theology and the inner workings of the church kind of stopped there. And so my faith I don't think it really grew a lot in high school. It was kind of stagnant. And I was still kind of involved in the church. I was an altar server through high school, but I think sometimes I was just focusing on what I was doing next during Mass, so I wasn't super involved during Mass. So, yeah, that's a little bit about us. All right, the second question that we were asked by Mrs. Herka was compare your faith now in college versus when you're at home. So, like I said, at home, being in a Catholic family and also going to St. Paul, it was kind of just what I did. I can't say that I was always giving my heart and all my focus that I could have been. And so that's kind of changed. Last year as a freshman here at Alma, I would say that my faith was kind of similar to that. I did go to Mass almost all the time, but at times we would get home late from a tournament for wrestling, and maybe I just wouldn't go. So I think last year was kind of, like I said, very similar. I still wasn't super focused, putting all my effort in at Mass to really pay attention and appreciate what was happening. But come to this year, I think that my faith has really, really grown. So obviously a big difference would be at home. You go to Mass as a family because that's just what you do. But here you have to get your butt out of bed and go by yourself or with teammates if you're lucky enough, like I have Eric. And so I think that's been a big change for me. So I realized like if I'm gonna go, I might as well get everything out of it that I can. So I think I've been able to grow my faith this year, probably stronger than it's ever been in my life, just because now I'm doing it for me and I'm really trying to get everything that I can out of Mass every Sunday and just grow stronger in my faith every week.
Similar to Joe, when I was at home, it's just what we did as a family. We went to Mass on Sunday, so I was never forced to put a lot of thought into it. And when I stepped outside of church, my faith wasn't always there. It was kind of just there at Mass. So here I'm forced to kind of take that more active role in my faith. And like Joe said, we're forced to get out of bed ourselves and go to Mass because we want to, not because that's what our family does. So it's forced me to make a more active role and be the one at the center of my faith, and that has given me the opportunity to go out and find these faith groups which help me grow outside the church. So I'm not just a Catholic in Mass, I'm allowed or I'm able to bring that outside my faith as well. The next question is, what is the biggest influence in our faith here on campus? So Joe and I have very similar places that we can go for our faith. So one of those is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is just what it sounds like. It's just a group of Christian athletes on campus that come together and we talk about our faith. Someone might give a message and there's other activities that we do, but it's just a really good group to have around you to know and meet people who are on the same path that you want to be on. And another thing that makes it very easy is teammates that have faith. So people like Joe who can hold me accountable, say, hey, we need to go to Mass, even if it's like we got home from a tournament late and I don't really want to. Having people close to you that share your faith definitely makes it a lot easier.
And then 2 more ways that have really helped us. This year, a professor, Dr. Wasserman, he reached out to us and he wanted to know if we would be interested in doing a small, like a men's group, like a faith sharing group. And I'm sure at St. Paul, you probably have parents or grandparents that are in groups like this where they go meet however often and they really can be intimate with those people and just tell them things that are on their heart and their mind and trust that with their faith you can share that bond. And so we had the opportunity to do that with Dr. Wasserman. So for most of this first semester this year, we've been meeting with him, Eric and I, and then another student as well who's also Catholic. So the 4 of us have been meeting, and that's just been really nice to have kind of a leader in a group. Having Dr. Wasserman as a professor and also seeing him then, that's very, very, very cool. And then another way is the Catholic Student Organization, and same thing for that. That's not something that we were involved with last year. I don't know that we actually knew about it, but this year we've been going to the meetings, and we actually had a retreat in the fall. We just stayed on campus, but we just had fun. We just kind of bonded, got to know each other because a lot of us had never met, and so that's just another group that you can hold each other accountable. It's a good way to meet people. And I know one of the questions later is, how do you find groups like this? And I know this is very true to Alma, and I'm very, very certain that this is true to all college campuses, but groups like Fellowship of Christian Athletes and Catholic Student Organization, they're going to be advertised all over campus. Sometimes they'll send emails about it. Also, they'll have organization fairs, so all the clubs and everything on campus. Even Alma's a small college with about 1,500 students, but there's still probably over 30 clubs, and so you don't have to look super hard. Now, in the case of Dr. Wasserman, that might be something where you have to talk to a professor and then find more people. Like, we didn't find that till our sophomore year. But groups like FCA and CSO, those are opportunities that will be made readily available to you on a college campus. All right, the next question that we were asked is, are you attending a Christian college and does it help or hurt? The short answer is yes, we're attending a Christian college, and yes, it does help. So to explain that more, one thing that's been a huge help on a Christian campus is the chaplain here at Alma. He's not Catholic. It is a Christian college. It's Presbyterian in denomination. But regardless, Dr. Palmerville, the chaplain, he is super involved and very funny and super, super outgoing. And so he sits on the benches at basketball and volleyball games. He goes and watches the soccer team play. And he's just been really, really present on campus. And so having him as a leader of all faiths on campus has been huge. And he's been a big change, because I don't actually know who the chaplain was before him, but I know this year, having him around, he comes to FCA as well sometimes too, and so having him around has just been really, really helpful and a positive thing for the campus.
Alma being a Christian college also means that there's a chapel on campus, so just having that there to remind you of your faith, and they'll have like different activities throughout the week or different things that they might have there to help with your faith. And they also have non-denominational services throughout the week that you can attend to help grow your faith. And just Alma being a Christian college also means that there's just more Christians here, so you never feel like an outsider in your faith, and there's always people around you who share your faith. There's always opportunities, like we talked about before, to find faith groups and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. There's not really a feeling at all of your faith causing people to be against you. It seems like a very close-knit community, and it's pretty present in most people's lives. So yes, it's very helpful. You got it.
Okay, the next question is, are you regularly attending Mass and the sacraments? So yes, we do regularly attend Mass, the both of us. There was a Catholic church in Elma a couple years ago, but it actually closed down. So we do have to go to the next town over in St. Louis, but that's only about a 10-minute drive. So it's pretty easy to go to Mass every morning, and earlier, or not every Sunday morning.
Every Sunday morning.
Every Sunday morning is fairly easy, and it's even easier, like I said before, when you have teammates to hold you accountable, or just other Catholics from the CSO or FCA like that. So
yeah, and actually through the CSO, they have vans that drive over there. So even if you don't have a car on campus, which both of us do, so that makes it easier. But if you were to not have a car on campus, you can get a ride to Mass. So that's pretty awesome. And so like Eric said, the church in Alma closed down because the building is falling apart. But the church in St. Louis that we go to, Mount St. Joseph, so it's Nativity of the Lord Parish, it's made it really, really easy and enjoyable to receive sacraments outside of the Eucharist, so going to confession and, not a sacrament, but going to adoration as well. So before every Mass service, for the half hour before Mass, Father Nate actually is available for confession in the confessionals. So that's been really good because sometimes it can get us to Mass a little bit early, which is good to help focus us up. But I just think that the church in St. Louis does a really, really good job of making confession available. And then every week on Fridays from morning around 10, I think, until 9 p.m., they have adoration available. And so that's really good too, because that's just a time that you can be present with the Eucharist. And I think that's really, really huge in growing your faith. So, the church in St. Louis has been really helpful for growing our faith, and it's very nice to have teammates to hold you accountable to go to Mass.
So the next question is, do you spend time alone with God, and do you read Scripture? So in our meetings that we talked about, or our prayer group meetings that we talked about earlier with Dr. Wasserman, one of the things that we do on the Friday mornings is we read Scripture. We read the Scripture from the upcoming Mass on Sunday. So that's just a good way to be prepared, so that when you go into Mass, you're not hearing it for the first time, and you've already heard it once, so you're ready to take it in and learn something from it, and hopefully get the lessons from it. And we also are able to talk about it there too, and what we're learning from it right there. So you already have an idea of what you're going to get out of the readings before you even go into Mass, which is pretty cool. And another thing you can do is you can subscribe to get emails from the USCCB, which is the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, and they will send you the readings from every single day. So that's another easy thing to read as well.
Mm-hmm. And like Eric said about reading Scripture, so like with Dr. Rossman, we do the readings for the week coming up. That's definitely like a great way to grow your faith, because by reading them beforehand, like Eric said, then you're ready. And so now you kind of know what to expect. You can reflect on it in the Mass that's coming up. And so you can just be mentally prepared for the event of the Mass. It's kind of like any almost like for any athletics that you do, you always practice and whatnot before. So before mass, you're kind of almost practicing hearing those readings and reflecting. If you do it by yourself, then you can meditate and just think about those readings. And so that's really a really good way to grow your faith. Then the first part of that question was, do you spend time alone with God? And so you might think like, oh, I'm too busy, or there's no way I can make time for that. Spoiler alert, you're wrong. You definitely, there's a lot of easy ways to just make short times. It's not like you have to spend an hour or 2 hours every single day with God. Like that would be pretty awesome if you could do that. But realistically, I mean, you probably don't have the focus or the amount of time to do that for that long if you're just starting out. So let's say that you were just beginning to want to spend more time alone with God. A super easy way to do it. The first thing when you get up in the morning, you can get up and just something that I like to do. I get up, I usually write in the morning, so I kind of write about my day, what I'm gonna do, and then I'll write my prayers down for the day. So that's pretty simple. Those prayers then will be in the back of your mind for the whole day, and that's really simple. And then, like Eric said, the readings that you can get sent to you, you can read those for the day. That's another good way that doesn't take very long, and it's a good way to get ready for the day. And then another way is at night before you go to bed. So I'm sure it's pretty cliche to hear like your mom or your grandma say your prayers before you go to bed, but they're right, and you should, because it's really easy, and the next thing you have to do after that is sleep. So your mind should be pretty calm. Super easy way, you can just get a rosary and leave it right next to your bed. That's a really easy way to say a prayer. You don't actually have to have a rosary. You can just count on your fingers. So yeah, those are some ways. First thing in the morning and then first thing at night. Those are good moments to have some alone time with the Lord.
The last question that we have is, what are challenges and doubts, and how has your faith been tested since you've gone to college? So one of the most obvious ones, coming to college right off the bat, that you realize is my parents weren't here to take me to the church anymore. My family, I wasn't going with my family. It wasn't something that was automatic anymore. I had to go do it myself or find teammates to go with me because, yeah, I had to find my own faith, and I had to, all parts of my faith, I had to find myself, and I had to go kind of search for what it meant to me and how to grow my faith outside of the automatic of what I was doing at home.
Yeah. And just to go off what Eric said, I'm sure as you could tell by watching all this that it really is just kind of up to you. And so that's the same challenge in ways that my faith has been tested. And then the other part of that was, do you have any doubts in your faith? And so I think anybody that has any faith at all, at times they're going to have doubt. Sometimes maybe something just really doesn't make sense, or you thought one thing was supposed to happen one way, but God's plans turned out to be quite a bit different than what you thought. And so I think having doubts is natural, but I think having hope and trust in the Lord is what's really important. That's what will help you overcome those doubts. Another way to overcome doubt is just talking about it with people, because I'm sure they've had the same doubts as you. It's not uncommon. I'm sure even if you found the person in your life that you think has the strongest faith, I'm sure they've even had doubts, and maybe because you realize their faith is so strong, they can give you a little wisdom, a little insight into how they were able to overcome those doubts. And so, like I said, that's just kind of part of being Catholic, I think. So don't be afraid to have those doubts, but also just trust in the Lord.
So to summarize, one of the best ways to grow your faith is to find groups around you, like we found FCA or the CSO, and find, if you're an athlete, find teammates or friends that share your faith and people that will help you grow because it really is in your own hands now. So it's a lot easier with people around you that share your values and your faith.
And really, the big take home message here, guys, is find your faith. So, like we've said time and time again, it's really just up to you. And if you want to grow your faith, you'll be more than capable of doing it on a college campus for sure. So we hope that this has been very helpful and that you can get something from this. So best wishes from Joe and Eric.